Welcome to Virtually Live, the podcast where we get insights from marketing leaders and event professionals. I'm Ashley, Content Marketing Manager at Kaltura. In today's episode, we're joined by Jodie Bartz, Senior Business Analyst at Mayo Clinic, and Brian Buckley, CMO at Nasdaq, hosted by Navi Azaria, Chief Product and Engineering Officer at Kaltura. Two remarkable leaders from vastly different industries share how technology is reshaping their day-to-day, whether it's AI helping doctors at Mayo Clinic or new ways of telling corporate stories at Nasdaq. Enjoy!
Good morning, everyone. Oh, thank you. Few of you promised cheers, so where were you? So good morning. We have an amazing speaker with us today, the leadership panel. Thank you so much for joining us, Jodie and Brian. So we're going to have an amazing panel now with two esteemed leaders that are coming from two different industries, right? Brian joining us from the Nasdaq, and Jodie is joining us from Mayo Clinic. So hopefully no one will ever need Jodie's services, right? Jodie, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. Yes, I'm Jodie Bartz. I've been at Mayo Clinic for 25 years. So like Ron, we're not discussing age. Started when I was a child.
Think 40. I think that's the new game.
The biggest decision that we made at Mayo Clinic, my team is a team of 3. And we do everything with streaming media with our team of 3. Now, we work with different departments, of course, but they look to my team for answers when it comes to streaming media. So the biggest decision we made was to democratize our access to video. So we have 4,500 videos that are uploaded to our enterprise video portal a month because we have every employee who can upload a video. And we're using it in every format that you can think of: communication, training, education. One of my favorite ones is that nurses are using QR codes on equipment that maybe nurses don't use every day to link to a training video on how to use that piece of equipment. And so, we're leveraging everybody's ideas on how to use video. I grew up thinking that doctors, you must be really smart to be a doctor.
Are they? Okay, so everyone who is a doctor or married to a doctor, here's flash news.
No disrespect. That was what I really thought. But in some ways, diagnosing or treating a patient is not unlike predicting the weather or forecasting the weather, right? You have to use markers and intelligence to help inform your opinion and choose the right tests. And so if we can help physicians also prescribe or better patient care through a recommendation engine of content that we have available to them, whether it's to help the patient or to help them know how to, what test to order in any situation.
Brian, what about you? Tell me a little about yourself, about the Nasdaq. Not many people know the brand.
Yeah, apparently not. So we'll do a 15-minute education on the brand. So a little bit about me. I've been at Nasdaq this is my 4th year as CMO. I actually didn't come from a marketing background. I came from a financial communications and strategy background. So I had a lot to learn in terms of digital customer journey and experience, which is a huge part of the job. So the CMO role at Nasdaq covers sort of 4 key areas: corporate communications, which is internal, external communications, financial communications, and reputation management. We've got our digital team, which is very deep, which manages our web properties, our digital customer journey, our MarTech stack. And then we've got our foundation and our purpose, which is the philanthropic side. And lastly, but not least, the brand side. So we do, and our marketing organization at Nasdaq is probably quite unique because a big part of the corporate experience or the corporate product, if you're coming to list at Nasdaq, is actually the marketing platform that we provide. So we are we have a kind of a bifurcated role. We market the brand of Nasdaq and the products of Nasdaq, and we also provide the platform for corporates who are coming to market to really tell their story in that impactful moment, which is probably one of the biggest moments in a corporate issuer's life.
Maybe you can take us to the journey that you have seen from Nasdaq perspective, taking tech companies into IPO during pandemic. How things have changed, because usually roadshow would need to be physical, everything need to be physical, right? So you change everything in that time.
Well, first of all, I just want to point out that it's difficult sitting on a panel where one person's talking about saving lives and we're talking about taking companies public. So I'd just like to acknowledge that. But it totally transformed it. I mean, it was I would say it highlighted, and I joined right in the middle of the pandemic, it highlighted, how exclusive actually the IPO experience was. It was in person. There's obviously a huge amount of video and broadcast that goes on around it. We run TV studios out of our market site location in Times Square. CNBC broadcasts from there every day. And we run all of our own content, and, but it was predominantly really a physical experience for 100 to 150 of sort of the top executives at a given company. And so we pivoted very quickly. We created an app that allowed employees from the companies going public to experience the public, the IPO moment in the app, but in our studios and in our building as well. And really made that exclusive experience much more inclusive. And we've taken that through now in how we think about the sort of confluence of the digital and the physical experience.
So, Jodie, we spoke earlier about doctors not being smart. I heard that. So that's a quote. It's on camera. What can we do? But no, I'm just kidding. But let's speak about how AI is actually being used for medical diagnosis in Mayo. I think this is a big area for you guys to invest in.
Absolutely, and there's several groups working on this, really, and that's one of the things our founders, the Mayo brothers, actually taught, was this collaborative approach. And so we have a group that has been really working on kind of the research part of it, like understanding all of the wealth of knowledge that we have at Mayo to inform AI systems and build the tool that will help lead to diagnosing. We've had for a long time an application known as Ask Mayo Expert that our residents and fellows get to use to help them. They can input, the symptoms that they're seeing in a patient, or and it will inform them what tests to follow up on or which tests not to, because at the end of the day, medical care is expensive, and so if you can choose the right path for your patient and get a better outcome or quicker answers, right? And I think you joke that we're saving lives, but I think we're all trying to do the same thing, like work with AI to make our jobs somewhat easier when we can.
Now, we are all experimenting right now, right? And so I want to speak with you, Brian, a little bit about experiments, right? I think you have a methodology that you call Fail Fast, if I understood correctly. And January 2023, you said that you're going to do Gen AI. And speak a little bit about the methodology. I think the audience would love to hear how you think about it, how you're willing to take risks, how you are evaluating success, and how you're actually driving that to production.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the concept of failing fast is not new to anyone who works in a technology environment. But what was specific about it for us is we were really traditionally a financial institution that has grown up into a technology company. Our culture is really trying to keep up with that, and we've really transformed in the last 6 years. And so there was still parts of the organization that are a little bit risk averse, rightly so. We run the markets, we need to run them and make sure they work every day. It's very important, and that's critical. But there's other parts of the business where we need to move faster and push out. And so I said after I got off that panel, I put a group together of folks from across our organization who were interested, who had shown a lot of interest early in Gen AI. So there are different levels, and I said to them, look, I want to have 5 or 6 use cases that we just run toward, and as soon as we think they're not working, let's put it to one side. We'll write a 1-pager or a 2-pager to say why it didn't work, or why we're not spending our time there. And so I put the group to work, and I just gave them very few guardrails. And I said, we want to learn. This is a learning process. It's not getting products to market as quickly as possible, or changing our organization as quickly as possible. And I think it was helpful because it was a learning year. There wasn't pressure on us because we were first out of the gate. And we're first out of the gate in the organization, for the most part, outside the tech org. And, you weren't seeing a huge amount of it in 2023, people coming in, having really tangible use cases. So there wasn't a huge amount of pressure on us. I met with the team once every few weeks, got an update. And so I expected 5 or 6 use cases. By the end of the year, we'd done 23, 5 of which went into implementation by Q4. And we now have an AI group within the marketing organization. People have been promoted. We've gotten more investment from the organization because we've moved out ahead, and we've learned a lot. And I think the one key takeaway for me is that this technology is moving very quickly. We start with a hypothesis, be willing and flexible to let go of your hypothesis. It comes back to this theme of letting go, and to put it in the dustbin or evolve it very quickly. And so we've got a good culture now in the team of doing that. And I think there's still a little bit of skepticism. Folks still worry, particularly further down the organization, about, is it going to replace me, etc. But we're starting to show how it really actually improves the impact of the job. It makes a lot of jobs more strategic, and it makes the organization much better. We are doing things, so like on the visual side, just to give you an example, we ran a brand campaign for the first time in a few years at the beginning of last year. We did that the traditional way. We did it the way we've done it for the last 20 years. 6 months later, I set the same team a task to recreate the brand, spot the commercial, with just AI, nothing else. And so we did it, and it was fascinating to see the outcome. And the outcome itself, in terms of the brand spot, was, it was interesting. It's not something that I would put on TV necessarily, but it required 2 or 3 folks giving up about 40 hours of their time. And what was very interesting about it is it accelerated the production process. It accelerated the creative process. And so that was the big learning. It doesn't fundamentally change, what we do, but it gets you out there a hell of a lot more quickly.
Something that I learned relatively recently, actually, was that women's health is only really been around since the 90s. So not a lot is known about women's health. So I think that in addition to being cognizant of different cultures and different races and different, like our gender and everything, right? I think that we also have to be conscious of our different patient population. And so I think what AI is going to do, and I think we'll see this with our large language model that you mentioned before, we are taking all of that education from our physician-led continuing professional medical education conferences, and we're feeding that into a large language model that will hopefully start creating scripts for us for our patient education. And I think that will give us a clearer insight into the groups that maybe where we do have gaps. If we're too focused on a certain gender over another, we're going to see that through the script writing, I do believe. And I think that also Mayo Clinic as a whole hasn't really embraced this, but I think the idea of where video creation is going to go, to be able to create personalized video experiences for different families, different races. I get really excited thinking about the future of that and what that could look like.
I mean, I'm going to sound a bit cliche, but obviously don't be afraid to fail, particularly with new technology. But it's changing much more quickly than we can adapt. And so you've got to acknowledge that. If you're not keeping pace, don't go down a road you're committed to just because you've committed to it. And we're finding that, like, on a month-to-month basis, stuff that we committed to in January, a co-pilot implementation has made it redundant, and we need to say it's redundant instead of pretending it's not redundant. And so I said that, to me, is, as it relates to Gen AI, is the key thing. Get the tool, whatever the tool or tools are, into as many hands in your organization as you can, because that's actually going to influence where you go, not sitting in an ivory tower and making a decision.
Thank you.
And I would just mention that at Mayo Clinic, in my department, we look at the business, delivery, and the development as an infinity loop. And the closer you can be to that center point, I tried to be there with our success manager and our team of Kalturians to help us answer those questions. And then the infinity loop idea that it's you don't just do it and walk away from it. it's not closed circuit. You have to keep going back to that well.
Thank you to our guests, Jodie Bartz and Brian Buckley. Thank you for tuning in. Join us next time for another episode of Virtually Live, the podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.